Chosen one, there is a stillness in you that is not empty, but overflowing. It is not the stillness of absence, it is the stillness of presence, a gravity that speaks louder than any voice could. Women feel it before they even understand it. It lives in the way you stand without shifting, in the way your eyes meet theirs without flinching or searching, in the way you hold space without the need to fill it. It is as though the air around you changes texture when you walk into a room, becoming thicker, heavier, warmer, inviting those around you to slow down, to notice, to breathe differently. This stillness is not a calculated trick. It is born from a truth you have lived into, a truth that cannot be taken away from you because it is not dependent on applause or approval. She feels her heartbeat settle when she is near you, as if her entire nervous system recognizes that she is in the presence of someone who does not need to prove himself. This is why love for you rises in her without resistance, because you are not asking for it, not chasing it, not bending yourself to earn it. You simply are, and in that being, you become the very thing her heart has been searching for, sometimes without her even knowing she was searching. You are not a man who demands devotion, and yet devotion seems to follow you, quietly, insistently, like a tide drawn to the shore. You hold yourself in such grounded alignment that she feels her own storms quiet in your presence, and in that peace she discovers something almost dangerous, love that feels inevitable, love that does not ask permission before it begins. Chosen one, the love she feels in your presence is not a fleeting spark. It is a fire that burns with a clean, steady flame, and its heat is drawn from the alignment between your inner truth and your outer energy. Your sexual energy is not a blunt force trying to overwhelm her. It is an undercurrent, a rhythm so deep it seems to bypass the ears and settle straight into the body. It does not shout, yet it commands the deepest layers of her attention. It does not demand, yet it shapes her desire. When you are near, she feels her own pulse fall into sync with yours, as if you have reminded her of a tempo she had forgotten, a music she had once known before the world made her forget. In you, she senses that masculine desire can exist without corruption, that it can be both pure and passionate, fierce yet tender. That recognition dismantles defenses she did not know she was still holding. You awaken her to a truth she had nearly buried, that a man's attraction can be a form of protection, that intimacy can be a form of reverence. And in that awakening, something in her shifts. The love that rises for you is not frantic, not desperate. It is deep and calm, as though she has stepped into a room where she has always belonged. Even in moments that pass quickly, she feels as though time slows with you, as though the hours stretch to give her more of this connection. This is why her love for you feels eternal, even when measured in days. You have not seduced her through excess. You have called her into herself through the quiet command of your presence, and now she carries that love for you like a secret flame she knows can never be extinguished. Chosen one, when she looks at you, she does not see a man who is trying to be something. She sees a man who already is. There is a completeness in you that makes her heart unclench, a way of existing that tells her without words that she does not have to perform or prove anything in your presence. The love she feels for you is nourished by the trust born in that freedom. Your sexual energy does not move through the room like a hunting animal, prowling for approval. It radiates from you like the warmth of a fire that has been burning for hours, steady and self-assured, offering heat to anyone who draws close enough to feel it. Women sense it instantly, the way the earth senses the sun. It is not only your body they notice, but the way your mind is anchored in your body, the way your spirit is anchored in your mind. They see that you have learned the art of living from your center, and in that centeredness, every gesture, every glance, every silence carries weight. She finds herself thinking of you when she is alone, replaying the way your presence made her feel, safe, seen, yet subtly challenged to meet you on the same ground of authenticity. This is not the love that blossoms from frantic infatuation. It is the love that grows in the soil of respect. And the respect is born because you are not a man who bends with the winds of external validation. You are the man who stands like a mountain, letting the winds swirl around you while your roots drink deeply from the waters beneath the earth. She loves you not only for what you give her, but for what you awaken in her. A recognition of her own depth, her own capacity to love without losing herself. That is why her love for you is not just emotional. It is spiritual, a devotion that feels as though it belongs to something greater than either of you. Chosen one, there is a quiet inevitability in the way she falls for you. It does not come from grand declarations or calculated gestures, but from the way your presence settles into her life, like the slow, unstoppable bloom of spring. She notices that the love she feels is not a choice she made in a single moment, but the result of 100 unspoken moments where you showed her who you are without needing to tell her. Your sexual energy is woven through your being like a hidden current beneath calm waters. It is not an announcement, but an invitation, drawing her closer without her even realizing she is moved. She feels that your desire is not shallow or scattered, but focused, disciplined, intentional. And because of that, she feels safe enough to be vulnerable, safe enough to show you the parts of herself she guards from others. This is why her love takes root so deeply. It is love built in the absence of fear. She is not bracing herself for betrayal, because you move in a way that makes betrayal impossible to imagine. The energy you carry tells her that your masculinity is not a mask to hide behind, but a living truth that needs no embellishment. She finds herself wanting to linger in your orbit, not because you demand it, but because being near you feels like standing in the place where her life makes sense. The longer she knows you, the more she realizes that the attraction she feels is not simply about your body, it is about the way your whole being is in harmony. In you, she sees the rare combination of strength and stillness, desire and discipline, power and peace. And it is this balance that turns her love from something she feels into something she trusts, into something she would defend without hesitation. Chosen one, there's a certain gravity in the way you exist, and she feels it without needing to name it. It is not the kind of pull born from spectacle or noise. It is the kind that draws ships to shore, the silent and unshakable pull of a tide. When she is near you, her mind grows quieter, as though all the scattered thoughts and restless doubts she carried have found a place to settle. Your sexual energy is not an eruption. It is a constant, living rhythm that underlies everything you do. She recognizes it not in the obvious, but in the way you move your hands when you speak, in the steadiness of your voice, in the way your eyes linger. Not to possess, but to understand. You are a man who has stripped away the frantic hunger that makes so many others seem unsteady, and in its place you have cultivated presence. That presence becomes a sanctuary for her, a place where she can exhale, a place where she is reminded that love is not something to chase but something that grows when trust is given space to breathe. It is this sanctuary that makes her love for you different from anything she has felt before. She does not love you because she feels an urgent need to have you. She loves you because in your company, she feels like herself, only clearer, deeper, more alive. Your energy does not ask her to shrink or rearrange herself. It meets her exactly where she is and somehow still invites her to rise. This paradox of being fully accepted yet still inspired to grow makes her see you not as a chapter in her life, but as a constant, a man she could walk beside for years without the path ever growing dull. Even when you say nothing, she hears the unspoken language of your presence. It is not in grand speeches that you reveal your soul, but in the moments between words, in the way you hold stillness without breaking eye contact, in the way you give without announcing your giving. That is why she can't help but think of you long after you are gone. You leave an imprint, not because you try to, but because you live in a way that naturally etches itself into memory. Chosen one, the love she feels for you is not something that flares and fades. It is a steady burn, like an ancient flame that has always been there, waiting for you to come close enough to see it. There is a patience in you that she does not often encounter, a patience that tells her you are not rushing to grasp at moments, but letting them unfold in their own time. Your sexual energy is part of this, rooted, grounded, sure of itself, unwilling to be hurried because it knows its own worth. She senses that you are not a man swayed by fleeting trends or the chaos of other people's opinions, and this gives her an almost primal trust in you. It is not only that she feels drawn to you, it is that she feels safe in that draw, knowing it is anchored in something real. You carry a balance between softness and power that is rare and irresistible. The softness allows her to feel seen, the power allows her to feel protected, and the combination allows her to love you without guarding her heart. She sees in you a man who does not fracture under pressure, who does not sway when challenged, and this stability is magnetic. In a world where so many seek to be noticed through noise, you have become unforgettable through depth. Your silence can be more compelling than another man's shouts, your gaze more disarming than 1,000 empty compliments. She knows you are not perfect, and that is part of why her love feels so strong. You do not pretend to be flawless. Instead, you are unafraid of your own humanity. And this makes her believe she can bring all of herself to you without fear of judgment. It is here, in this quiet yet unyielding truth, that her love takes root in ways that cannot be undone. She does not simply admire you, she treasures you, because she knows that men like you do not come often in a lifetime, and once they are found, they are worth keeping close. Chosen one, there is a moment she often replays in her mind, though it was not dramatic in the way the world defines drama. It might have been the way you stood in the doorway saying nothing, yet commanding every drop of her attention without a single gesture. It might have been the way your eyes softened when hers met yours, as if you could see not just the mask she wore in public, but the raw, unfiltered core beneath. Your sexual energy is not something you perform. It lives in the way you occupy space, in the way your presence seems to bend the air around you. She has known men who tried to be magnetic by rehearsing their charm, men who leaned on borrowed lines and artificial confidence, but none of them left her soul stirred in the way you do, simply by existing. There is no act to unravel with you, no polished facade that cracks under scrutiny. You are whole, whether the world is watching or not, and that wholeness is what pulls her closer. The awe she feels is not only for the man you are, but for the way you seem to see her, without trying to fix or change her. In a lifetime of meeting people who wanted her to fit their vision, you are the rare one who offers her space to remain herself, and yet, paradoxically, you make her want to become better. It is not out of pressure, but out of inspiration, the way a seed reaches for the sun, not because it is forced, but because the light calls to it. That light is what your energy has become for her. A constant warmth that never blinds but always guides. When she is near you, she does not feel the rush of unstable attraction. She feels the steady hum of connection that grows deeper with time. She can sense that your desires are not frantic grasps in the dark. They are deliberate, aware, and rooted in something far greater than mere impulse. This is why she finds herself thinking of you at the quietest hours, why your absence is not filled by noise, and why every time she sees you, it feels less like meeting someone, and more like returning to something she has always known. Chosen one, there is a rare beauty in the way she trusts you without having to explain why. Trust, for her, has never been freely given. It has been earned through time, through consistency, through the steady proof that a man will be who he claims to be. Yet with you, that trust did not feel like a cautious test she had to administer. It bloomed naturally, as though some part of her spirit already recognized yours long before the mind could put it into words. Your sexual energy plays its part in this, not because it overwhelms, but because it reassures. It tells her without speaking that you know what you want, and more importantly, that you are unafraid to stand still until it arrives. That steadiness is its own kind of seduction, one that does not flare up and burn out but burns low and long, filling the room with its heat long after you have left. In your presence, she feels the quiet confidence of someone walking on solid ground after years of navigating unsteady terrain. She feels that if she stumbled, you would not rush to fix her in a way that made her feel small. You would offer your hand in a way that preserved her dignity. This is where her love becomes something sacred, because she does not have to choose between desire and safety with you. In you, both live in the same place. Your strength is not loud, yet she knows it could roar if it needed to. Your gentleness is not weakness, yet she knows it could become fire if the moment demanded it. And perhaps this is why she feels so deeply anchored when you are near. You embody the paradox she has long searched for, a man whose very presence assures her that she can be both free and protected, both wild and held. In the silence between your words, in the stillness of your gaze, she feels a truth that makes her heart race and her mind rest at the same time. She has found someone whose energy is not here to consume her, but to cherish her. And in that recognition, her love for you takes on a depth that even she cannot fully measure. Chosen one, there is a point where words begin to fail her, where language feels like an inadequate container for what she experiences in your presence. She tries to explain it to herself at night, in the solitude where thoughts grow louder, yet even then she finds her own mind trailing into silence, because what she feels is beyond ordinary comprehension. Your sexual energy is not simply an undercurrent. It is a living field around you, shaping the way moments unfold, shaping the way people lean unconsciously toward you without realizing it. For her, it is not only magnetic, but deeply humanizing. It makes her feel that in your presence, every guarded layer she has ever worn can be shed without fear of being wounded. She knows that you could look into her eyes and see the moments she has hidden from the world, the mistakes she has buried, the quiet dreams she has never spoken aloud. And instead of recoiling, you would only draw nearer. This is why, in her private moments, she finds herself imagining futures that she would never dare consider with others. Not because she is lost in fantasy, but because you have shown her what a reality shaped by mutual presence could feel like. When she recalls your gaze meeting hers, it is not the rush of lust alone that lingers, but the unshakable sense that you meant every second of it. That sincerity is what makes her restless in your absence and grounded in your presence. She has met men whose attention was fleeting, a flicker of heat that extinguished as soon as the novelty faded. But you have never burned her in that way. You are not chasing a temporary high. You are building something enduring in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you allow moments to breathe without forcing them. And in that slow and certain rhythm, you have become someone she cannot compare to anyone else, because the depth you bring is not a performance. It is who you are when no one is watching. Chosen one, her love for you is not the kind that arrives with noise and leaves with silence. It is the kind that grows in quiet, steady increments until it becomes undeniable. She feels it when your voice softens, when the words you choose seem to carry an unseen weight, when you listen as though the entire world has narrowed down to the sound of her breathing. She feels it when she realizes she can trust not only what you say, but what you leave unsaid, because your integrity does not need constant proving. It simply is. Your sexual energy is the current that carries all of this, a force that is not merely physical, but profoundly emotional and spiritual. It awakens her senses without unsettling her peace. It stirs her desire without eroding her self-respect. It makes her feel seen without being exposed. In you, she has found what so many believe cannot exist, a man who can inspire longing and safety in the same heartbeat. There are moments she wants to tell you this directly, but she hesitates not out of doubt, but because the words feel too small for the truth. She knows you would understand anyway, because you read her not through her sentences, but through her presence. She knows you can feel it, in the way she lingers near you, in the way her laughter changes when you are the cause, in the way her hand seems to find yours even in a crowded room without conscious thought. You are not simply a man she loves. You are the man around whom her compass quietly resets. The man whose presence makes her feel that everything that came before was only a prelude. Chosen one, this is why she cannot forget you, why she cannot dilute her connection to you, and why she feels so certain that no matter how the world shifts, the energy between you will remain. Because what you have given her is not only attraction, it is an unshakable anchor in a life that once felt untethered. And for that, she will never stop being in love with the man you are. Chosen one, you've become more than a man. You've become a sanctuary. Not because you preach, not because you promise, but because when a feminine woman steps into your space, the chaos inside her begins to quiet. The weight she's been carrying suddenly feels lighter, not because it has disappeared, but because you're not afraid of its depth. You do not flinch when she's emotional. You do not pull away when she's complicated. You do not shame the flood of her feminine mystery. Instead, you hold your ground with unwavering stillness, and that steadiness becomes a lighthouse in her inner storm. You have learned the art of staying rooted, and in doing so, you've become the place where her fragmented parts start to reassemble. It is not your words that shift her, chosen one. It's your nervous system. It's the fact that you're no longer reactive. You're no longer seeking control. You're no longer running from your own shadows. And because you've met your own pain with compassion, you are now able to meet hers without flinching. You do not try to fix her. You do not try to rescue her. You simply see her. And that, in itself, is a sacred healing. Most women have never truly been seen without agenda. Most have never been met without demand. And now, in your quiet power, she begins to taste a truth she thought only existed in dreams. That a man can hold fire without trying to extinguish it. That a man can hold her without trying to mold her. That a man can be still enough to let her emotions move without being moved off his axis. Your sexual energy is no longer a tool for conquest. It has become an energetic balm. When she walks away from you, she doesn't just feel turned on. She feels realigned. She feels clearer, more whole, more feminine. Not because you took her anywhere, but because your presence reminded her where she never left. You've become that mirror of calm masculinity she didn't realize her soul had been yearning for. And when she lays in bed later, long after your conversation ends, it's not your voice she hears. It's the way you made her feel. It's the softness that returned to her chest, the safety that returned to her breath, the permission she finally gave herself to feel beautiful, wild, radiant again. That's the power you now carry. Not through performance, through energy. You are not leading her into your life, you're leading her back into her own. That's the paradox of divine masculine attraction. That the more deeply present you become in yourself, the more her femininity feels safe to rise in response. You've stopped chasing feminine energy, and now it rises to meet you. Not out of obedience, not out of submission, but out of sacred magnetism. Because the masculine that dwells in purpose, devotion, and emotional groundedness has always called forth the highest in women, and now you walk as that call. Not as a boy who demands attention, but as a man whose energy speaks in tones deeper than language. And chosen one, that's why they follow you now. That's why they glow around you. That's why their walls drop. Because your presence doesn't just flirt with their bodies, it resets their entire being. Chosen one, there is a sacred language that cannot be spoken, only felt. It ripples between glances, pulses through the stillness between words, and ignites in the quiet gravity between your masculine presence and her feminine soul. You've noticed it, haven't you? The way her eyes linger on you longer than they used to. The way her body leans forward without her realizing it. The way her laughter deepens around you, not because of the joke, but because of the safety in your tone. Feminine women are beginning to say things to you with their eyes that their mouths are still too enchanted to form. Because they don't quite understand what they're feeling, but their bodies do. Their intuition does, and they follow that instinct the way a river follows the earth. Without resistance, without effort, without shame. You are not a man chasing attention. You are a man who has become attention. You've stepped into that rare frequency that doesn't ask to be seen, yet cannot be ignored. Your presence alone bends the atmosphere, not by volume, not by performance, but by something so rare it terrifies the shallow. Depth, true, grounded, sovereign depth. And it is this depth that is stirring something primal in feminine women now. They don't come to you for entertainment, they come to feel something real. Because their bodies are exhausted from pretending, their hearts are weary of games. And you, chosen one, offer neither. You offer truth wrapped in silence, power laced in restraint, attraction that doesn't need to consume to feel complete. That's why their eyes look at you like that. Like they've found water after wandering through a desert of boys pretending to be men. She may not say it out loud. She may not even fully know what's happening inside her. But when you walk into the room, something ancient in her remembers. Her nervous system softens, her posture subtly aligns, her voice slows, as if time itself is stretching just to stay in your orbit. This isn't flirtation, it's gravitational pull. It's the language of energetic recognition, where two polarities magnetize not through fantasy, but through inner truth. You've made your energy so clean, so centered, so fiercely unshakable that her femininity feels like it can dance again. Not for attention, not for validation, but for the sheer joy of feeling safe and seen. And when you see her, not with lust, not with agenda, but with soul-deep awareness, she glows differently. You're not taking anything from her. You're reminding her of what she's always been. This is what most men never understand. That feminine women do not fall in love with power. They fall in love with the way your power makes them feel. They fall in love with the way you see through them without shaming them. The way your energy doesn't demand anything, yet invites everything. The way your voice sounds like a decision, not a question. You do not overpower her. Your presence makes her forget that she was ever afraid to soften. And in a world that has told her to always be on guard, you've become the one place she can rest without losing her mystery. That is the highest form of seduction, safety without submission, boldness without force, masculine strength without the need to dominate. And now, chosen one, you've become that rare presence her body trusts before her mind can explain why. Chosen one, your transformation is no longer just personal, it is relational. The shift you've experienced within yourself is now mirroring itself in the women who enter your orbit. They feel it before they speak it. They sense it in the way your eyes remain steady, not invasive, not wandering, but rooted in the present moment, like a man who needs nothing and yet offers everything. Around you, they feel their own femininity return. Not because you flatter it, but because your calm masculinity invites it to emerge without fear. She starts to feel like a woman again, not the kind defined by cultural expectation, but the raw, intuitive, sensual force of life she's always carried beneath her armor. You see, chosen one, it's not that you teach her to be feminine. It's that your presence reminds her she already is. And that is what shifts everything. Around other men, she may have been shrinking, performing, overcompensating, but around you, she exhales. She doesn't have to be hard. She doesn't have to guard. She doesn't have to compete. Your energy is so clean, so anchored, so unapologetically whole that her nervous system begins to unwind the moment she enters your gravitational field. Her tone softens, not because she's trying to impress you, but because you've made it safe for her to be honest. Her laughter becomes unfiltered, not because she's trying to win your favor, but because she trusts you enough to be herself. And the more she surrenders to this effortless safety, the more she blooms. She becomes playful again, creative again, mysterious again. Not for your pleasure, but because you've become the soil where her feminine can root and flourish without fear of being trampled. You didn't seduce her. You didn't chase her. You didn't manipulate her emotions or exploit her vulnerabilities. You simply became yourself, fully. And in that fullness, she saw a mirror of her own sacred longing. The part of her that was tired of playing strong finally met a man who didn't need her to be weak, but simply real. Your sexual energy, refined and aligned, no longer rushes to take. It gives. It gives through presence, through attention, through the sacred act of witnessing. She doesn't feel pressured to be more or less. She feels free. And that freedom becomes the most intoxicating experience she's ever known. Because while others tried to conquer her body, you conquered the false belief that love requires war. You radiate as proof that true masculinity does not oppress, it liberates. And now, chosen one, that liberation is all she craves. What's profound is that you no longer try to activate her femininity. You simply live in the fullness of your masculine nature, and everything else responds like nature to the sun. Feminine women no longer run from you, they gravitate to you. Not because you've become louder, but because your silence has become more trustworthy than 1,000 declarations. You've stopped proving. You've started embodying. And that embodiment, chosen one, is what she remembers. Long after the moment passes, long after you've left the room, long after the noise of the world returns, your energy remains like a sacred echo. She touches her hair differently. She speaks slower. She breathes deeper. Because somewhere in her body she still feels the gravity of the man who made her feel more like herself than she ever dared to admit. That man, chosen one, is now you. Chosen one, you have become what very few ever become, a gateway. Not to seduction, not to status, but to something far more dangerous to the broken systems of this world, awakening. Your sexual energy, once raw and scattered, has now been refined by discipline, clarity, and heart, and that alchemy has turned you into a living key. A key that unlocks parts of the feminine soul that she herself had buried. You do not pull it out of her. You do not force it into light. You simply are the light. And in your light, what was once hidden begins to remember its name. She does not even know how or why it's happening. All she knows is that when she's around you, she feels more alive, more sacred, more feminine, more herself. You do not push, you do not pull, you stand, and your standing is an invitation to her soul. The truth is, most feminine women have been aching to be seen, not for their beauty, not for their curves, but for the fullness of their feeling, their chaos, their silence, their storms. And while others have run from that depth, you now dwell in it like a monk in fire. You do not label her too much. You do not call her too emotional. You do not reduce her to her function. You reflect her essence without resistance.